The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. Representatives from 47 species sat in their floating seats, arranged in a massive circle around the central platform. Lights of different colors glowed above each delegation, marking their home worlds. The ceiling stretched so high that it disappeared into darkness, and the walls were covered with screens, showing news from across the galaxy. Ambassador Yuna stood alone on the central platform. She was a small woman with black hair tied behind her head. Her uniform was simple and gray, without decoration. She held a tablet in her hands, but she was not looking at it. Her eyes moved slowly across the chamber, studying each alien face. The Valori delegate spoke first. He was tall and thin, with blue skin that seemed to glow from inside. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "We have called this meeting to discuss the human problem," he said. "For too long, these newcomers have taken more than they deserve. They expand too fast. They breed too quickly. They take resources that belong to older, wiser species." Yuna said nothing. Her face showed no emotion. The Kreeth representative made a sound like rocks grinding together. His body was made of stone and metal, and his eyes burned like fire. "Humans have been part of this council for only 80 years. In that time, they have spread to 37 worlds. They have built military bases in 12 systems. This growth is dangerous. Their ships patrol our trade routes," added the Mora delegate, a creature that looked like a floating cloud of purple gas. "They act like they own the space between stars. Who gave them this right?" Yuna lifted her head slightly. She seemed ready to speak, but then she closed her mouth and waited. More voices joined the chorus of complaints. The Talani accused humans of stealing their mining technology. The Osari claimed human traders were destroying their markets with cheap goods. The Fenric said human soldiers were too violent and too unpredictable. Through all of this, Yuna remained silent. Her assistant, a young man named June, stood at the edge of the platform. He looked nervous. His hands were shaking, and he kept glancing at Yuna, waiting for her to defend their species. But she did not speak. The High Chancellor of the Council floated forward on his gravity throne. He was an ancient Valori. His blue skin faded to pale gray. His eyes had seen empires rise and fall over thousands of years. "We will now vote," he announced. "The proposal is simple. Humanity will be removed from the Galactic Council. All human military forces will leave Allied space within 30 standard days. Human trade rights will be cancelled. Human colonies in shared systems will be placed under Council supervision." Yuna finally moved. She took one step forward and raised her hand. "The human delegation wishes to speak?" the Chancellor asked, sounding surprised. "No," Yuna said. Her voice was calm and quiet. "The human delegation has no comment." Whispers filled the chamber. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. They had expected arguments. They had expected begging. They had prepared responses to every defense humanity might offer, but there was nothing to respond to. "Very well," the Chancellor said slowly. "We will proceed with the vote." One by one, the lights above each delegation changed color. Green meant yes to the proposal. Red meant no. A few species voted red. Mostly the smaller ones who had traded heavily with humans. But most of the lights turned green. The final count appeared on the main screen. 39 in favor, 8 against. "The motion passes," the Chancellor declared. "Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council." Cheers and celebration filled the chamber. The Valori delegate raised all 4 of his arms in victory. The Kreeth made sounds like an earthquake. The Mora delegate pulsed with bright colors. Yuna bowed her head slightly. Then she turned and walked toward the exit. June hurried to follow her. "Ambassador," one of the Fenric called out. "Do you have nothing to say? No protest? No appeal?" Yuna stopped at the door. She looked back over her shoulder at the celebrating aliens. "No," she said simply. "You have made your choice. Now you will live with it." She walked out before anyone could respond. The celebration continued for hours. Representatives who had competed with each other for centuries now embraced like old friends. They made plans to divide human trade routes among themselves. They discussed which species would take over human patrol duties. They imagined a galaxy free from the chaos that humans brought wherever they went. Outside the chamber, Yuna and June walked through the long corridor that led to the human section of the station. "Ambassador," June said, his voice tight with emotion. "Why did you not fight? We have allies. We have arguments. We could have..." "Could have what?" Yuna asked. She did not slow her pace. "Changed their minds? They decided to remove us long before today. The vote was just a ceremony, but we cannot simply leave. 37 worlds depend on human protection. 12 trade routes would collapse without our patrols. The Vrel Empire has been waiting for exactly this opportunity to..." "I know," Yuna said. She stopped walking and turned to face her assistant. "I know everything you are about to say. And so does Earth Command." June stared at her. "Then why?" Yuna's expression finally changed. A small, cold smile appeared on her lips. "Sometimes, June, the best way to show your value is to remove yourself completely. Let them discover what life is like without us. Let them understand what we have been doing for them all these years." She began walking again. "But people will die," June protested, following her. "Without our protection, the smaller species will be attacked. The trade routes will become dangerous. The pirates will..." "Yes," Yuna agreed. "All of that will happen. And when it does, the Council will finally understand something they have forgotten." "What is that?" Yuna reached the door to the human embassy. She pressed her hand against the scanner and waited for it to open. "They will understand that we were never the problem. We were the solution. And solutions have a price." She entered the embassy, where 50 human staff members waited with worried faces. They had watched the vote on their screens. They knew what the result meant. Yuna walked to the communication console in the center of the room. She entered a long code that connected directly to Earth Command, bypassing all normal channels. A face appeared on the screen. It belonged to Admiral Hana, commander of Earth's military forces. She was an older woman, with gray hair, cut short, and eyes that had seen too many battles. "It is done," Yuna said. "They voted as we expected." Admiral Hana nodded slowly. "Then we proceed with protocol silent departure. All human assets will begin withdrawal within 6 hours. No warnings. No explanations." "Understood," Yuna replied. The screen went dark. Yuna turned to face her staff. They looked scared and confused. "Pack only what you can carry," she told them. "We leave tonight. Leave everything else behind." "Ambassador," one of the staff members asked, "what happens now?" Yuna looked out the window at the celebration still visible in the distance. Alien ships were firing colored lights into space, marking their victory. "Now," she said quietly, "they learn." Commander Tay stood on the bridge of the battleship Iron Mountain. Through the main window, he could see the planet Velos Prime spinning slowly below. Its purple oceans and green continents were beautiful. But Tay was not looking at the scenery. He was reading the message that had arrived 3 minutes ago. Protocol silent departure. Immediate withdrawal. No contact with local authorities. Tay put down his tablet and looked at his crew. 20 officers sat at their stations, waiting for orders. They had protected this system for 11 years. They knew every asteroid, every moon, every shipping lane. They had fought pirates here. They had rescued Valori ships from meteor storms. They had become part of this place. Now they were leaving. "Navigation," Tay said, keeping his voice steady. "Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." The navigation officer, a young woman named Sora, turned in her seat. "Sir? What about the supply convoy arriving tomorrow? The Valori merchants are expecting our escort. They will have to manage without us," Tay replied. "But sir, the convoy carries medical supplies. If pirates attack..." "I have my orders, Lieutenant." Tay's voice was harder now. "All crew members will return to the ship within 2 hours. Anyone still on the planet will be left behind." The bridge fell silent. No one argued. They could see in their commander's eyes that this was not a discussion. Similar scenes happened across 37 worlds at the same time. On the mining planet Krethos, Human engineers shut down the defense grid they had built and maintained for 15 years. The Kreeth workers watched in confusion as the humans packed their equipment and walked to their transport ships without saying a word. On the ocean world of Mora Station, human traders closed their shops and abandoned warehouses full of goods. The purple gas beings floated around the empty buildings, unable to understand what was happening. On the frontier world of Fenris 7, human soldiers handed over their patrol routes to local forces who had never operated without support. The Fenric commanders demanded explanations, but the humans only shook their heads and kept walking. In the space between stars, human patrol ships broke away from their assigned routes. Merchant convoys suddenly found themselves alone in dangerous territory. Distress signals went unanswered. The withdrawal took exactly 18 hours. When it was finished, humanity had vanished from every corner of Allied space. Only empty bases and abandoned equipment remained to show they had ever been there. The Galactic Council did not realize what was happening at first. They were still celebrating their victory. The first reports of human departure were seen as good news. The troublesome species was leaving even faster than required. But then the problems began. On the third day after the vote, a Valori merchant convoy was attacked by pirates near the Darkwind Nebula. The convoy sent distress calls to the human patrol ships that always operated in that area. No response came. The pirates took everything and left the crews floating in escape pods. On the fifth day, the Kreeth mining operations on 3 asteroids were raided by unknown forces. The defense systems the humans had built were offline. No one knew the codes to restart them. The Kreeth lost billions in raw materials. On the 7th day, the first Vrel scouts appeared at the edge of Council space. The Vrel Empire had been waiting for this moment for centuries. They were a warrior species, large and powerful, with scales like armor and teeth like knives. They had fought the Galactic Council many times before, always losing because of one reason: human military support. Now that support was gone. Chancellor Vorath, the ancient Valori leader, called an emergency meeting. The celebration decorations still hung from the walls of the council chamber. No one had thought to take them down. "This is unacceptable," he declared, his voice shaking with anger. The humans were given 30 days to withdraw. They left in 18 hours. This was not the agreement. There was no agreement, replied the Mora representative. His purple gas form swirled nervously. We told them to leave. They left. We cannot complain that they followed our orders, but they did not follow the proper process. They did not transfer their patrol routes. They did not train replacements. They simply abandoned everything. Perhaps that was the point, said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned to look. The speaker was Ambassador Kell, a small creature from a minor species called the Telani. His people had voted against removing humanity. What do you mean? The Chancellor demanded. Kell moved forward slowly. His large eyes blinked in the bright lights. I mean that humans are not stupid. They knew what would happen when they left. They chose to let it happen. Nonsense. They are primitive. They cannot think that far ahead. Primitive? Kell almost laughed. They expanded across 37 worlds in 80 years. They built a military force that kept the Vrel Empire at bay for decades. They created trade networks that connected half the galaxy. Does that sound primitive to you? The chamber fell silent. They let us vote them out, Kell continued. They could have fought. They could have used their military to resist. Instead, they walked away quietly. Ask yourself why. The Chancellor had no answer. Outside the chamber, the news was getting worse. Vrel warships had crossed the border into Council territory. They had attacked 3 small colonies, killing thousands. More ships were coming every hour. The Council's own military forces were scattered and confused. For 80 years, they had relied on human coordination to function effectively. Human officers had led joint operations. Human strategists had planned defenses. Human ships had filled the gaps in patrol routes. Without humans, the Council forces did not know how to work together. Old rivalries returned. The Valori refused to take orders from Kreeth commanders. The Fenric would not share intelligence with the Mora. Everyone blamed everyone else for the disaster unfolding around them. On Earth, Admiral Hana watched the reports come in. Her office was quiet and simple, with white walls and a single window looking out at the stars. She sat alone at her desk, reading each message carefully. A knock came at the door. "Enter," she said. Commander Tay walked in. He looked tired from the long journey home. "Admiral, all withdrawal operations are complete. Every human asset has returned to Earth space. Casualties? 17 wounded during evacuation. No deaths. Good." Hana turned back to her screen. "The Vrel have attacked 4 more worlds in the last 6 hours. Council casualties are estimated at 30,000. Tay's face showed no emotion. "Regrettable, is it?" Hana looked at him directly. "You spent 11 years protecting those people. You must feel something." Tay was quiet for a moment. "I feel angry. Not at them. At the situation. We tried to help them. We gave everything we had. And they threw us away like garbage. They did not understand our value," Hana said. "They saw us as servants, not partners. Now they are learning the difference. Will we go back?" Hana stood and walked to the window. Earth floated below, blue and green and beautiful. "Eventually, when they ask properly, when they understand what we really are. And if they never ask," Hana smiled coldly, "then the galaxy will change. Either way, humanity will survive." "We always do." Tay saluted and left the office. Hana remained at the window, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of aliens were dying because they had underestimated one small species from one small planet. She felt no joy in their suffering. But she felt no guilt either. They had made their choice. Now they would live with the consequences, or die with them. The Vrel warship descended through the clouds of Osari Prime like a falling mountain. It was black and covered with spikes. Built to look frightening as well as dangerous, behind it came 20 more ships of the same design. Below, in the capital city, millions of Osari looked up at the sky and screamed. The Osari were a peaceful species. They had soft bodies and large, gentle eyes. They had never built weapons. They had never fought wars. For 500 years, they had relied on the Galactic Council for protection. And for the last 50 years, that protection had come mainly from humans. Now the humans were gone. General Vrex of the Vrel Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with scales the color of dried blood. His teeth were as long as knives, and his eyes burned with ancient hatred. "No human ships detected," his sensor officer reported. "No council warships in the system. The planet is undefended." Vrex made a sound like rocks being crushed. It was his species' version of laughter. "Of course it is undefended. The council never learned to protect itself. They always depended on those clever little mammals from Earth." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the orbital defense platforms. Destroy them all." "Sir, the platforms appear to be offline. No power readings." Vrex's laughter grew louder. "The humans built those platforms. Without them, no one knows how to operate the systems. This will be easier than I expected." Tenna. The Vrel fleet opened fire. In minutes, the defense platforms were nothing but burning metal falling into the atmosphere. The Osari capital lay completely exposed. Vrex opened a communication channel to the planet below. "People of Osari Prime," he said, his voice booming across every screen and speaker on the world. "Your protectors have abandoned you. Your council has failed you. Surrender now. And some of you will live, resist, and all of you will die." The Osari government surrendered within the hour. News of the Osari conquest spread across the galaxy like fire. The Vrel had taken their first council world in over 2 centuries. And they had done it without losing a single ship. Chancellor Vorath called another emergency meeting, but this time there was no celebration. The chamber was filled with fear. "We must respond," demanded the Kreeth representative. His stone body crackled with nervous energy. "Send our combined fleet to retake Osari Prime." "Our combined fleet?" The Fenric delegate made a harsh sound. What combined fleet? Half our ships cannot communicate with each other. We have no unified command structure. The humans handled all of that. Then we will build our own command structure. That will take years. The Vrel will take 50 more worlds by then. Arguments filled the chamber. Every species blamed another. The Valori accused the Kreth of not maintaining their military. The Kreth blamed the Mora for refusing to share resources. The Fenric blamed everyone for ignoring their warnings about the Vrel threat. Through it all, Ambassador Kell sat quietly and watched. His small Talani body barely made a shape in his seat. Most of the other delegates had forgotten he was there. Finally, he spoke. There is one obvious solution that no one has mentioned. The chamber fell silent. Everyone looked at him. Ask the humans to come back. Laughter filled the room. But it was nervous laughter. The kind that comes when people hear a truth they do not want to accept. Impossible, Chancellor Voreth declared. We voted them out. They are gone. They will not return. Why not? Kell asked. We did not destroy their planet. We did not declare war. We simply removed them from our alliance. We can invite them back. They would demand too much. They would want revenge. Would they? Humans are practical creatures. They would rather trade than fight. If we offer them fair terms, they might accept. Fair terms? The Valori delegate's voice rose with anger. We are the Galactic Council. We do not negotiate with lesser species. Kell stood up slowly. For such a small creature, his voice carried surprising weight. Lesser species. The humans held back the Vrel Empire for 50 years. They protected trade routes across half the galaxy. They built defense systems that none of us can operate. And you call them lesser? He pointed at the screens showing reports from Osari Prime. Vrel soldiers were marching through the conquered cities. Osari civilians were being forced into labor camps. Look at what is happening because we called them lesser. Look at what our pride has cost us. No one had an answer. While the council argued, the situation continued to collapse. Pirates organized themselves into fleets, knowing that no human patrols would stop them. They attacked merchant ships openly, in broad daylight. Trade routes that had been safe for decades became death traps. The economy of the galaxy began to fail. Without safe trade, resources stopped flowing. Worlds that depended on imported food began to starve. Worlds that exported raw materials found no buyers. On Earth, Admiral Hana monitored everything. Her staff brought her reports every hour. Each one showed more chaos, more death, more destruction. The Vrel have taken 2 more worlds, Commander Tay reported. They are moving faster than we expected. They are testing the waters, Hana replied. They want to see how much they can take before the Council fights back. Will the Council fight back? Eventually, when they have no choice. But by then, the Vrel will control enough territory to make a real war. Tay looked at the star map on the wall. Red marks showed Vrel conquests. Yellow marks showed worlds under attack. Green marks showed Earth territory, completely untouched. Permission to speak freely, Admiral? Always. Part of me wants to help them. I know what the Council did to us. I know they deserve to suffer for their arrogance. But the Osari did not vote against us. The smaller species tried to help. Should they die for the mistakes of the Valori and the Kreth? Hana was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. You are a good man, Tay. Your compassion is not a weakness. It is what makes humans different from the species who threw us away. Then why are we not helping? Because if we help too soon, nothing will change. The Council will see us as servants again. Tools to be used and discarded. We must wait until they understand what we really are. And what are we? Hana turned to face him. Her eyes were hard but not cruel. We are their equals. We are their partners. We are the species that held the galaxy together while they fought among themselves. And until they see us that way, any help we give will be wasted. How long will that take? Hana looked back at the star map. More worlds were turning yellow as she watched. Not long now. The Vrel are efficient teachers. Soon the Council will learn what we have always known. What is that? Hana smiled, but there was no joy in it. That peace is not free. Security is not free. Someone must pay the price. And for 80 years, humans paid it gladly. Now someone else will pay. She turned away from the map. Get some rest, Commander. When the Council finally asks for help, we will need to be ready. Tay saluted and left. Hana remained alone in her office, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, empires were falling. Species were dying. The order of the galaxy was being rewritten, and humanity waited, patient and silent, for the call they knew would come. The Council ship entered Earth's solar system slowly. It was a beautiful vessel, all silver curves and glowing lights, designed to show the wealth and power of the Galactic Council. Once, such a ship would have been welcomed with ceremony and celebration. Today, it was met by silence. Chancellor Vorath stood at the front window of the ship, watching Earth grow larger in the distance. The blue planet looked so small, so fragile. It was hard to believe that such a tiny world had produced the species that now held the galaxy's fate in its hands. Beside him stood representatives from 12 Council species. The Kreth ambassador was there, his stone body gray with stress. The Mora delegate floated nervously, his purple gas form flickering. Even the proud Fenric had sent their highest leader. They had come to beg. Human defense stations are tracking us, the ship's captain reported. They have not responded to our greeting signals. Keep trying, Vorath ordered. They must speak with us eventually, but the humans did not respond. The Council ship was guided to a landing zone by automated systems, with no human voice ever welcoming them or giving instructions. When the ship landed, only one person was waiting on the platform. Admiral Hana stood alone, wearing a simple gray uniform. No guards, no assistants, no ceremony. Chancellor Vorath walked down the ramp with his delegation behind him. He had prepared a speech about cooperation and mutual respect. But when he saw Hana's face, the words died in his throat. Her expression was empty, not angry, not cold. Simply empty, like she was looking at strangers who meant nothing to her. Chancellor, she said, just one word. Admiral Hana. Vorath tried to sound dignified. We have come to discuss the current situation in the galaxy. The Vrel threat affects all species. We believe that together. Follow me, Hana interrupted. She turned and walked toward a nearby building without looking back. The Council delegation exchanged confused looks. This was not how meetings were supposed to work. There should be greetings and introductions. There should be comfortable rooms and drinks. There should be respect, but they had no choice. They followed. Hana led them through gray hallways to a large conference room. The walls were covered with screens, all dark. A single table sat in the center with chairs arranged around it. Sit, Hana said. They sat. Hana remained standing. She looked at each delegate in turn, her eyes measuring them like a hunter measuring prey. You want our help, she said. It was not a question. Yes, Vorath admitted. The Vrel have taken 17 worlds. Our forces cannot stop them. We need human military support. I see. Hana walked to the wall and pressed a button. The screens came to life. The first screen showed a recording of the Council vote. The delegates watched themselves celebrating humanity's removal. They saw their own faces twisted with joy as they destroyed their alliance with Earth. This was 43 days ago, Hana said. The second screen showed statistics. Human patrol routes. Human defense systems. Human trade networks. All the things humanity had provided to the Council. This is what you voted to reject. The third screen showed the aftermath. Burning colonies. Dead civilians. Vrel warships conquering world after world. This is the result. Vorath's face had turned pale. Admiral, we made a mistake. We admit that. But surely you cannot blame us for the Vrel attacks. We did not invite them. No, Hana agreed. You simply removed the only thing stopping them. She pressed another button. A new image appeared on the main screen. It was a document filled with text and numbers. This is a record of every insult, every complaint, every attack on humanity during our time in the Council. 3,472 separate incidents. Shall I read them? That will not be necessary. The Kreeth ambassador rumbled. Are you sure? Some of them are quite creative. The Valori delegate once called humans talking animals who learned to build ships. The Fenric Council compared us to a disease that spreads too fast. The Mora representative suggested that Earth should be quarantined for the safety of the galaxy. No one spoke. We served you for 80 years, Hana continued. Her voice was still calm. But something harder was underneath it now. Our soldiers died protecting your worlds. Our engineers built your defense systems. Our traders carried your goods, and in return, you called us primitive. You called us dangerous. You voted to throw us away. She walked around the table slowly. Ambassador Yuna stood before you and offered no defense. Do you know why? Because defending humanity's value should not have been necessary. You should have known. You should have remembered every life we saved, every threat we stopped, every crisis we managed. But you forgot. You only remembered your fear and your pride. Vorath tried to speak. Admiral, please. We are here to make things right. Name your terms. Whatever you want. We will consider it. Hana stopped walking. She looked at the Chancellor with something that might have been pity. Whatever we want? Very well. Here are our terms. She activated another screen. A list appeared, written in simple text that even the translators could not misinterpret. First, humanity will no longer serve under Council command. We will be equal partners in a new alliance, with equal votes and equal authority. Second, all human personnel will be paid fair wages for their work. No more unpaid protection. No more free security. Third, human colonies and territory will be recognized as sovereign. No Council supervision. No Council interference. Fourth, the species who voted against us will be required to formally apologize, in public, on record. Vorath's face changed from pale to red. Apologize? The Valori do not apologize. We are the oldest species in the Council. You have 17 worlds burning under Vrel occupation, Hana interrupted. You have an economy collapsing. You have millions of refugees flooding into systems that cannot support them. And you are worried about your pride? The Chancellor fell silent. Hana leaned forward, placing both hands on the table. Let me be clear. These terms are not negotiable. Accept them, and we will help you. Reject them, and we will wish you luck against the Vrel. You would let the galaxy burn? The Mora delegate asked. No, we would let you burn. Earth will survive. We have always survived. The question is whether you will survive with us or without us. The Council delegation looked at each other. They had come expecting to negotiate from strength. They had planned to offer small favors in exchange for human return. They had not expected this. We need time to discuss, Vorath said finally. You have 1 hour. My assistant will show you to a waiting room. When you have decided, send word. Hana walked to the door. And Chancellor? Think carefully. This offer will not come again. She left the room. The Council delegates sat in shocked silence. The screens on the walls still showed the burning worlds, the dead civilians, the conquering Vrel armies. This is blackmail, the Fenric delegate growled. No, Ambassador Kell said quietly. Everyone had forgotten he was there. As usual. This is consequence. We treated them like servants. And now they are showing us what happens when servants become equals. The Valori will never apologize, Vorath insisted. Kell looked at him with his large, calm eyes. Then the Valori will burn, and so will the rest of us. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the human city beyond. I will vote to accept. My people never forgot what humans did for us. If the rest of you are too proud to survive, that is your choice. The room fell silent again. Outside, the sun was setting over Earth, painting the sky in colors that no Council world could match. The delegates had 1 hour to decide the fate of the galaxy. The hour passed slowly. In the waiting room, the council delegates argued and shouted and threatened. Old alliances broke apart. New alliances formed and dissolved within minutes. The fate of entire species hung on every word. In the end, survival won over pride. Chancellor Vorath sent a message to Admiral Hanna. 4 words: "We accept your terms." 3 days later, the first human warships jumped back into council space. They moved like ghosts, appearing suddenly in systems that had been under attack. The Vrel forces, confident after weeks of easy victories, did not understand what was happening. Commander Tay led the strike force that hit the Vrel supply lines. His ships came out of nowhere, destroyed 3 enemy vessels before they could respond, and vanished again. The same pattern repeated across a dozen systems. The Vrel had never faced an enemy like this. They were used to direct combat, ship against ship, army against army. They did not know how to fight shadows. Within a week, their advance had stopped. Within 2 weeks, they were retreating. Within a month, every world they had taken was free again. General Vrex sent a message to his emperor. "The humans have returned. We cannot win." A first for the Vrel Empire pulled back to its borders and asked for peace talks. For the first time in centuries, they showed fear. On the day the new alliance was officially formed, the council chamber looked different. The floating seats had been rearranged. A new section had been added at the front, directly facing the Chancellor's throne. Human flags hung beside the banners of the oldest species in the galaxy. Ambassador Yuna took her seat in the new section. She wore the same simple gray uniform she had worn 47 days ago, when she walked out of this same chamber in silence. But nothing else was the same. Chancellor Vorath stood at the center of the chamber. His ancient face was tight with emotion. He held a document in his shaking hands. "On behalf of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice carrying across the silent room, "I offer a formal apology to the people of Earth and all human colonies. We undervalued your contributions. We ignored your sacrifices. We let fear and pride blind us to the truth." He paused. The words seemed to cause him physical pain. "You are not lesser than us. You are equal to us. And without you, we would have fallen." He bowed his head toward Yuna. Around the chamber, other delegates stood and bowed as well. The Kreeth, the Mora, the Fenric. Even species who had said nothing during the original vote but had done nothing to stop it either. Yuna watched them with an expression that showed nothing. When the bowing ended, she stood. "I accept your apology," she said. Her voice was calm and quiet, just as it had been on the day of the vote. "But understand this, apologies are words. Trust is built through action. We will be watching." She sat down. The ceremony continued with the signing of the new alliance agreement. Each species pressed their mark to the document. Humans were no longer guests in the council. They were founding members of a new order. After the ceremony, Yuna found Ambassador Kell waiting for her in the corridor outside. The small Talani looked up at her with his large, gentle eyes. "You won," he said simply. "We survived," Yuna corrected. "Winning would have meant none of this was necessary. Perhaps. But your species has changed the galaxy today. Things will never be the same." Yuna looked back at the chamber where delegates were still celebrating the new alliance. That was always the point. Not revenge, not victory, just change. Some of them will never forgive you for this. The Valori especially. They have long memories. Let them remember. Yuna's eyes grew cold. Let them remember what happened when they forgot our value. Let them remember the burning worlds and the dead civilians. Let them remember that they caused it, not us. Kell nodded slowly. "And what now? What will humans do with this power?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. When she answered, her voice was softer. "The same thing we have always done. We will protect. We will build. We will help species who cannot help themselves. That is who we are. Even the species who hurt you? Especially them, not because they deserve it, but because it is right." Kell smiled, something his species rarely did. "You know, Ambassador, I think that is why the galaxy needs humans. Not your ships, not your soldiers. Not your technology, your heart. Yuna said nothing, but something in her expression changed. Just slightly, just enough. On the frontier, Commander Tay stood on the bridge of the Iron Mountain once again. His ship was back in Valori space, patrolling the same routes he had protected for 11 years before. The planet Velos Prime turned slowly below. Its purple oceans and green continents were beautiful as always. A signal came through from the surface. A Valori voice, uncertain and humble. Human vessel Iron Mountain, this is Velos Prime Orbital Control. We are grateful for your return. If there is anything we can provide for your crew, please let us know. Tay looked at his navigation officer, Sora. She was trying not to smile. Thank them, Tay said. Tell them we appreciate the offer. And tell them we are happy to be back. Sir? Are we happy to be back? Tay considered the question. He thought about the vote. He thought about the celebrations when humanity was expelled. He thought about all the insults and all the contempt. Then he thought about the Osari civilians who had been freed from Vrel labor camps. He thought about the children who would grow up in peace instead of war. He thought about all the lives that would be saved because humans were here again. Yes, he said finally. We are happy. This is what we do. This is who we are. Argo. 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 On Earth, Admiral Hana stood at her window one last time. The crisis was over. The reports were positive. The galaxy was rebuilding. A knock came at her door. Enter. Ambassador Yuna walked in. She still wore her uniform from the ceremony. She looked tired but satisfied. It is done, Yuna said. So I heard. The council apologized. The Vrel retreated. The new alliance is signed. Yes. Yuna moved to stand beside the admiral at the window. Do you think it will last? Hana was quiet for a long moment. Some of them will forget again. They will start to take us for granted. They will complain that we are too powerful or too demanding. It is their nature, and when that happens, we will remind them. Not through silence this time. Through words. Through negotiation. Through the strength that comes from being true partners. Not servants. Yuna nodded slowly. I hope you are right. I hope so too. Hana turned to look at her. But even if I am wrong, we will adapt. We will survive. That is what humans do. That is what we do, Yuna agreed. They stood together in silence, watching Earth turn below them. Somewhere out there, among the stars, a galaxy was learning a lesson it would never forget. Not about human strength, not about human technology, not about human ships or weapons or resources, about human heart. The silent departure had taught them what humans were worth. The lethal consequences had shown them what a galaxy without humans looked like. And now, standing as equals among the stars, humanity had found its true place. Not above other species, not below them. Beside them, where they had always belonged,